was euphoric. We were all almost elated. Everybody kind of hugged and shook hands and were yelling of excitement.
Over budget and behind schedule, the Navy took delivery of its newest aircraft carrier last month.
And today, 10 on your sides, Deanna LeBlanc got a behind-the-scenes look of the Gerald R. Ford.
Well, if you're walking down a pier or looking out to sea, the Ford might not look much different from existing aircraft carriers, but once you get inside, we're going to show you she's a lot different and a lot more modern. This ship that's been years and billions of dollars in the making is almost ready to join the fleet. And as the first in its new class, needless to say, it's a lot different.
Coming here, coming from other ships, it was kind of a learning curve, learning our new systems and how we operate.
From the way Marcus Steed will fight fires on board to the way jets will fight in future wars, the Ford systems are more automated than any ship ever before. And that means fewer crew members are needed.
When you look at our numbers, we're a little bit over 2,600 sailors. Nimitz class you're going to see just shy probably of 3,300.
Up on the bridge, there's no throttle. The ship is steered via touchscreen. The captain's view has changed too. The tower he sits in, also called the island, is further back on the deck, making more room for aircraft to maneuver, with an end goal of getting more aircraft up in the sky more quickly.
We're always trying to stay a step ahead of the adversary, and so I think we've done that with this carrier.
But there have been questions about the new state-of-the-art catapult system, more digital instead of steam-powered. It ran into trouble during early testing, but the ship's CO has confidence.
So it's really about the envelope. It's opening the envelope for the other future aircraft and future capabilities of the Navy that we otherwise would be constrained with the steam catapult system.
The ship's leadership says the crew knows these new systems inside and out, and that's good timing. Commissioning is now under 2 weeks away. So what's next? Well, the Ford still has to go through more testing. She'll get out to sea. They'll see what's working, what needs to be reworked. As for future deployments, that's still up in the air, but it will be sometime around 2021 or 22. At Naval Station Norfolk, I'm Deanna LeBlanc. 10 on your side.
The USS Gerald R. Ford is now officially part of the Navy fleet.
The Navy commissioned the Ford on Saturday, but she is still a long way from being ready to serve overseas. Our Deanna LeBlanc is here with what's next for the Ford.
Well, the earliest the Ford would be ready for deployment is 2020, but I've been told it could also be as late as 2022. That all depends on testing. Here's what's next for the Ford. First, her brand new state-of-the-art catapult and trap systems must be tested because not one Navy jet has flown onto or off of the carrier. And this testing is an extremely big deal because the Ford-class carrier has a totally revamped launch and recovery system. Instead of using steam power like the Nimitz class, jets will now be launched through an electromagnetic or EMAL system. And early testing of that system on the Ford in 2015 failed. That failure brought harsh criticism from President Donald Trump and other lawmakers. The Navy and engineers have since conducted a series of tests with sleds weighted equal to a jet, but still no live pilot or aircraft have tested this new system. The Navy says that will be put to a real test in the very near future. Then after more testing, the Ford will eventually go back into port so engineers can figure out which of the Navy's 23 new state-of-the-art systems are working and which ones need to be reworked. And what's still uncertain for the Ford is if she'll undergo shock trials. That's when the Navy detonates explosives near the ship to see how she holds up. Congress may choose to skip that, which would help get the Ford on a deployment faster and fill in what some see as a gap in military presence at sea. They could then push that testing onto the next Ford-class carrier, the Lincoln. I'm Deanna LeBlanc. 10 on your side.
The Navy is touting its most recent success.
On Friday, the USS Gerald R. Ford reached a major milestone, and it happened less than a week after its commissioning.
Yep, the carrier conducted its very first launch and recovery of an FA-18 using new state-of-the-art technology. 10 on your side, Deanna LeBlanc was there today, and you talked to the people who pulled this all off.
I've practiced all kind of emergency procedures and all that, all that going on in your head.
Navy test pilot Jamie Struck knew Friday's flight would be much different than the more than 100 other test flights he has under his belt.
Coming down on approach and have, so many eyes on you and, oh my God, the pressure.
But the man in control of the FA-18 Friday afternoon nailed his landing. Then crews on the flight deck jump with excitement at the sight of the Ford's first launch. Some of them have been working 3 years for that moment.
It was euphoric. We were all almost elated. Everybody kind of hugged and shook hands and were yelling of excitement.
The main difference in the launch, there's no steam power. The EMAL system is all electronic. A computer input controls the launch speed, making for a more precise takeoff than on a Nimitz class.
You'll get plus or minus 5 knots on a Nimitz class. EMALS is pretty much dead on, plus or minus 1 knot.
The ship's CO called the day a great one for naval aviation. He and the ship's air boss, Commander Ed Plott, say the Navy's $12.9 billion aircraft carrier still has a long way to go.
It just proved that it does work, and now we just have to look at the reliability because we just don't know at this point.
Now they'll study the data from those 4 tests to see what needs to be changed, and there will be hundreds more tests before she's ready for a deployment. And it is worth mentioning the pilot used computer assistance on landing. It wasn't completely manual, and right now those launch and recovery systems cannot handle the weight of a jet with a full fuel load. That's a kink that might not get worked out for another 2 years. I'm Deanna LeBlanc. 10 on your side.
They're working hard to make sure the newest member of the Navy fleet is ready to hit the seas.
So, as a special holiday treat, the Star Wars saga went to our local heroes along for the trip to a place not so far away. 10 on your side photojournalist Rob Rizzo.
The flight deck of USS Gerald R. Ford is quiet as she steams in the Atlantic off the coast of Virginia. The hustle and bustle of the ship's activities on hold.
Luke, I am your father.
As Walt Disney Studios' Kenneth Caldwell prepares the sailors for a war like no other.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
Missing out on the chance to see the opening of the newest Star Wars movie, The Last Jedi, in theaters, Disney brought the movie to them. It was an escape for the sailors, a chance to watch the battle of good versus evil between villains and heroes.
Getting to see it, especially before everyone else, was amazing. And I was like you, I was cheering along with the crowd at those pivotal moments, you know? It was amazing.
Oh, it was awesome. I was kind of bummed out that we were going to be out here and I was going to miss the midnight premiere, but I got to see it before anyone else.
Disney execs giving thanks to the military, pointing out who their real heroes are.
Right around here, this is real. You're the real heroes, believe me. And I thank you for your dedication, for your service.
How neat is it to be able to watch a premiere screening in an aircraft carrier on the ship's hangar bay doors?
The sailors on board CVN 78 spent the afternoon watching the movie, but the memories they have of their own private screening will last a lifetime. On board USS Gerald R. Ford, Robert Rizzo, 10 on your side.
Rizzo, I'll tell you, even better news for the crew. The sea trials are short and the crew will be back before Christmas.
The Secretary of the Navy has staked his job on new technology on the USS Gerald R. Ford, and those systems still don't work.
Yeah, the ship under construction at Newport News Shipbuilding continues to have problems with the elevators that carry weapons up to the flight deck. Investigative reporter Chris Horn looks into how this problem is affecting the Ford's readiness.
Stephanie, back in January, Navy Secretary Richard Spencer told President Trump, "I'll have the elevators working by the end of the summer, or you can fire me." They still don't work, and the Ford is scheduled for more sea trials in October. President Trump commissioned the USS Gerald R. Ford nearly 2 years ago. It's the first in a whole new Ford class of aircraft carriers with unprecedented technology. That includes 11 electromagnetic weapons elevators, and so far only 2 of the 11 are working. They're designed to carry more weapons and at a faster speed than conventional systems on previous carriers. That would enable the Ford to launch more sorties in a shorter period of time. Navy Secretary Richard Spencer vowed he would have them working on the Ford before the carrier's scheduled departure from Newport News Shipbuilding in October. That's when the Ford is set to resume sea trials. So the Navy has brought in a team of outside experts to help get the technology working. Navy spokesman says the trials will move forward as the Navy, Huntington Ingalls, and the experts solve the problems and install the remaining 9 elevators. Huntington Ingalls says it welcomes the Navy's team of independent experts and is committed to working through the problems and delivering the elevators safely and efficiently. Assistant Navy Secretary James Gertz is calling this a full-court press on finding a solution. Gertz expects the outside experts to recommend design changes in future Ford-class carriers. Ford has already had to solve problems with its aircraft launch and arresting gear systems. And the Navy and Huntington Ingalls are building a land-based test system that will connect Newport News with naval surface warfare in Philadelphia, so the two sites can troubleshoot new carriers simultaneously. The head of the Senate Armed Services Committee, meanwhile, showed his disgust. He says the Ford needs to be ready by its scheduled deployment coming up in 2021. Chris Horn, 10 on your side.
We are back now with an update on one of the Navy's newest aircraft carriers taking small steps toward its first deployment.
The USS Gerald R. Ford is out at sea working out the bugs in the system. It's been a long journey for the carrier with some bumps along the way. 10 on your side's Kara Dixon took a trip out to the Ford to see how things are working now.
Under the late winter sun in the Atlantic Ocean, the U.S. Navy is prepping its newest aircraft carrier by testing it out a lot.
Lots of nations build ships around the world. Not many nations put their new ships and their new systems through the rigor of test and evaluation that we do, and that's for good reason. That's how we know we've won in war in the past.
The Gerald R. Ford is the first of its class and has nearly completed its post-delivery test and trials. There are some differences on this carrier compared to others, from its layout allowing more room,
big advantage of being able to move more aircraft at any given time,
to being more environmentally friendly.
This is what 100 pounds of trash looks like in ash form.
To needing less people to man the ship. Commanding Officer Paul Lanzalotta says many of the changes are things that aren't too noticeable, such as using electromagnetic catapults sending these jets off, and tech allowing them to easily tell incoming threats. It's saving them time, but one of their biggest advantages right now is using that time to train others from East Coast Carrier Strike Group.
It actually diversifies our organization because with each at-sea period, we bring sailors on board who have a different viewpoint on things. They've seen things done differently, and we can avoid that kind of time or that age-old thing you sometimes hear in the military that, well, that's the way we've always done it. And frankly, that's not a thing here because we're learning.
The Ford is expected to complete its tests and trials by the middle of the year and undergo a shock test before returning to the shipyard for more work and modernization. Those on board, like Christopher Hoy, take pride in how hard they've worked to get to this point and are looking forward to the Ford being operational.
It's a big deal to be a part of history, to be a part of something new, and to be on the first of its kind. So coming here and being able to make an impact and leading junior sailors and teaching them the things of how to go about on the Ford and doing this and that is a big deal.
On the USS Gerald R. Ford, Kara Dixon, 10 on your side.
She's the largest aircraft carrier in the world, packed with the latest technology.
The USS Gerald R. Ford is getting ready for a special deployment with ships from 8 other nations. All new at 5, investigative reporter Chris Horn has a rundown of what Navy Command is planning for this new class of warship. Chris?
Yeah, very interesting, Tom. After persistent problems with never-before-seen technology, the commanding officer of Gerald R. Ford says it is now fully operational. Nearly 5,000 crew and aviators will take part in its most wide-ranging exercises so far. Literally in a class by itself, Gerald R. Ford will sail with navies from Canada and 7 European nations. The Armada will include 17 ships, 1 submarine, and 60 Navy aircraft.
Enabling the Ford to test out its capabilities and exercise with allies and partners prior to its first global force management deployment planned for next year.
Ford's commanding officer says it will conduct aircraft operations and air defense exercises. That will include its cutting-edge electromagnetic aircraft launch system, advanced arresting gear, and new weapons elevators. Problems with those technologies in early trials caused delays and controversy. The price tag for the world's largest warship went beyond $15 billion overall in construction and research and development. But the CO says it's all systems go.
All 3 of those technologies are fully certified for unlimited use. We're no longer in testing world here.
The Navy estimates the launch system will save billions of dollars in maintenance costs over the long haul. In this case, the life expectancy is about 50 years. The system also allows for more frequent launch operations. Captain Lanzalotta thanked the families of his crew for their support. He says Ford has been at sea a lot lately, but he says this deployment will be different and will expand Ford's footprint further out to sea.
We're going to use the entire Atlantic as our playpen. So the Atlantic Ocean is a new strategic importance. We're not just going to stay tethered to Norfolk. The other big difference is we're going to be sailing with our allies. We've never done that before.
And so far, the Navy is short on specifics when it comes to the exact day of that deployment, other than to say Gerald R. Ford will sail sometime next week. Chris Horn, 10 on your side.
USS Gerald R. Ford's deployment was delayed. The ship was supposed to get underway today.
Yes, but the tidal flooding had other plans, so that's why they are delayed. Now, the Ford is the largest aircraft carrier in the world. The deployment will include partnerships with ships from 8 other countries. We're still working to find out when the ship is expected to deploy. Naval Station Norfolk is operating as mission essential personnel today. 8 o'clock and your top story this morning. The world's largest naval aircraft carrier is set to deploy from Naval Station Norfolk later today. More than 5,000 sailors aboard USS Gerald R. Ford are saying see you later to their loved ones. Thank you for joining us. I'm Katie Collette.
And I'm Aisha Tolliver. The ship is sailing out to sea a day later than planned. Its deployment was delayed following yesterday's tidal flooding and high winds. 10 on your side's Maria Bray is live outside the base this morning with more details on the deployment. Maria.
Good morning. Well, we can imagine a lot of tears are going to be shed, but this is a historic moment. The Ford's first deployment after being constructed around 17 years ago. And the special deployment includes 8 other countries such as Spain, Denmark, and Sweden. The carrier strike group holds 17 ships, a submarine, and 60 Navy aircrafts. Ford's commanding officer says it will conduct aircraft operations and air defense exercises, including its cutting-edge electromagnetic aircraft launch system, advanced arresting gear, and new weapons elevators. The Ford also has a nuclear plant that's able to generate nearly 3 times the amount of electrical power. A Navy captain says the deployment will expand Ford's footprint further out to sea.
We're going to use the entire Atlantic as our playpen. So the Atlantic Ocean is a new strategic importance. We're not just going to stay tethered to Norfolk. The other big difference is we're going to be sailing with our allies. We've never done that before.
The ship is expected to depart around noon, and we've already seen cars rolling in to the gates behind me, and we're going to have more coming up in 30 minutes. Live in Norfolk, Maria Bray, 10 on your side.
New this morning, sailors assigned to the first-in-class aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford arrived in Portsmouth, United Kingdom for a scheduled port visit. During the visit, sailors will have a chance to experience the rich culture of the city. USS Gerald Ford deployed from Norfolk last month and has been conducting exercises with NATO allies. The aircraft carrier holds 17 ships, a submarine, and 60 Navy aircrafts.
We continue with the first mission completed for USS Gerald R. Ford, and families couldn't be happier. 10 on your side was at Naval Station Norfolk when the Navy's newest carrier pulled back into port. The Ford and its crews deployed in October, all in a mission to strengthen relationships with allies and partners. The crew of the strike group is happy about its accomplishments in its first ever deployment.
Oh, it's a good feeling, man. I've been waiting. Couldn't wait. I was ready before Canada, ready after London, and now I'm back.
When your internet is down or when you can't make a phone call home, that's been hard, especially during the holidays. So I'm really glad to be back.
Yeah. Thank you to the families that are out there, to the families in Hampton Roads, and all over the country that support our sailors. Thank you very much for what you do.
The Ford strike group sailed more than 9,200 miles and hosted more than 400 visitors.